What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? I would like to welcome you all to another edition of Wayne's Perspective, where we operate in discipline, decency, integrity, and respect. All right, so finally on today, we're going to get to the fourth part of the Trump effect. And this one mainly is going to focus on some of the participants that were charged and are facing consequences for their roles in the attack that took place at the Capitol on January 6, 2021. Now, what I am going to do is use an article from the Bulwark, courtesy of Bill Luders. So I want to give him credit for the article. And even though this was posted on March 26th, I saved it because I knew that this was going to be a focus of one of my videos on Trump, and in this case, it's going to make a perfect video for part four. And we're going to take a look at this article. I made sure to see if I could locate a web player so I can have it read out loud because I just wasn't up for reading the whole thing. I mean, normally I wouldn't have a problem with reading it, but I made sure to get a web player for this one. So as we take a listen to this and I give my thoughts, I just want you all to just take a listen to this and see, do you all think that these are political prisoners? Do you think that these people should be coddled? Do you think that they should be let out? Do you think that they were overcharged or whatever? And speaking of charge, right now, the Supreme Court is actually taking up a case where they're weighing in on whether the prosecutors improperly stretched federal law to charge hundreds of these participants in this attack on the Capitol, and that was courtesy of the Washington Post. So I'm definitely going to keep my eye on that one because even though it shouldn't affect Trump's January 6th case or trial, I should say, what the Supreme Court is going to say is going to determine how these participants are charged, and we're just basically going to see what's going to happen with that. Hopefully, they rule the right way, but with this conservative majority on the court, you just never know. So with all that being said, we're going to get into this article courtesy of the Bulwark, and again, credit to Bill Luders for his contribution. So we're going to go ahead and get the screen shared, and we're going to take a listen here.
Just who are Trump's January 6th heroes? A look at some of the unbelievable patriots whom the GOP standard bearer has praised and promised to free.
Just and unbelievable patriots is in quotation marks. Let me say that.
Just who are Trump's January 6th heroes? During a recent campaign appearance in Ohio, Donald Trump paid tribute to an extraordinary group of Americans, the rioters who at his behest laid siege to the U.S. Capitol on January 6, 2021.
And just remember, I want to stop it right there. Now, remember that day when I guess the events were slowly but surely coming to an end, and he did that half-ass apology, and then later, when the House were debating whether they should, go against the electoral college count or whatever, you had Matt Gaetz on the floor talking about it was Antifa that was out there. So again, nobody ever called him out on this, but you mean to tell me that the same people that Trump said we love you and we're proud of you and all this other nonsense, that was Antifa? So he loves Antifa now? I digress. Let's continue on with this.
During a recent campaign appearance in Ohio, Donald Trump paid tribute to an extraordinary group of Americans, the rioters who at his behest laid siege to the U.S. Capitol on January 6, 2021. He stood on the stage and saluted as the PA system played a rendition of the national anthem performed by the J6 Prison Choir, a group of people incarcerated for their actions that day. The recording is interspersed with clips of Trump reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. Well, thank you very much, and you see the spirit from the hostages, and that's what they are, is hostages, Trump told the gathering. They've been treated terribly, and very unfairly. He called them not the 140 law enforcement officers who reportedly sustained injuries defending the Capitol on January 6 unbelievable patriots. This was in the same March 16 talk in which Trump stated that, if he doesn't win the election this fall, it's going to be a bloodbath for the country.
And see, there we go again with the ridiculous gaslighting. If he doesn't win, it's going to be a bloodbath, whatever, man. And then they're hostages. they're damn sure not treated like hostages. I say that, and then just, I mean, it's just crazy. Treated unfairly. They broke the law, and most people, including myself, will probably say that they're being charged, very gracefully, basically akin to a slap on the wrist for what they did. Because let that have been a group of people that look like me, we all know what the outcome would have been. But let's continue on here.
Well, thank you very.
Hold on.
Well, thank. It wasn't the first time that the former and perhaps future president has praised the rioters, who he's also dubbed political prisoners,
They're not.
and there are doubtless many more tributes to come. These are, in his view, singularly honorable and heroic individuals, people who, when push came to shove, found that they could both push and shove, as well as batter and assail. One of his first acts as a newly inaugurated president, Trump has pledged, will be to free the January 6th hostages being wrongfully imprisoned. He's indicated that he plans to pardon all but a couple of them who may have gotten out of control.
That's BS.
That will be a whole lot of pardons. The U.S. Justice Department, in a recent press release, says that in the 38 months since the Capitol assault, more than 1,358 individuals have been charged with crimes related to this attack, including more than 486 for the felony of assaulting or impeding law enforcement. The count continues to grow.
And it should.
As does the list of people who get the Bulwark's articles and newsletters delivered to their inboxes. Join them. Who are these unbelievable patriots Trump is vowing to put back on the streets?
Here we go, y'all.
Here is a small sampling of people who have thus far been not only charged and convicted, but sentenced for January 6th related crimes.
Watch this.
The ages are from the time of sentencing. Details are, mostly, from Justice Department accounts. A searchable database is available if you'd like to have a look. Use the search bar to find arrest, conviction, and sentencing press releases for individual defendants. Jeffrey Saville, 53, of Kittredge, Colorado. Having breached the Capitol grounds equipped with a helmet, trauma kit, buck knife, and zip ties, Saville was part of the mob that pushed against police lines until breaking through. He tried to pry away a baton and helmet visor from an officer. He and another rioter knocked an officer to the ground, whereupon Saville yanked away his baton with so much force that the officer's torso was lifted off the ground.
Jesus.
He dragged another officer down the steps and into the mob, where the officer was beaten with a flagpole and a baton. Afterward, Saville tried to destroy evidence of his role in the melee, going so far as to microwave multiple computers and toss his phone in a body of water. He also attempted to escape arrest by flying to Switzerland. He was not permitted to board the flight. Found guilty in a bench trial of 3 felonies and sentenced just last week, on March 21st, to 63 months in prison and 36 months of supervised release, and ordered to pay $32,166 in restitution.
Okay, so look at this guy. Now, of course, just looking at this picture. Now, I don't know how recent this picture is, but this guy probably was proud of what he did, and a helmet, trauma kit, buck knife, and zip ties. Why the hell do you need to bring this to a protest? Tell me that. And just looking at his actions, I mean, come on now. He yanked away an officer's baton with so much force that the officer's torso was lifted off the ground. That's crazy. And of course, when you're dealing with a criminal or when you're dealing with someone who is conducting criminal acts, of course they're going to try to escape to another country, but you're supposed to be big, bad, and bold, right? Okay. Let's continue on.
Having breached the Michael McCrell, 42, of Wellington, Ohio. Clifford McCrell, 23, of Wellington, Ohio. This father and son team violently engaged with officers outside the Capitol. Michael McCrell wrapped his arm around the neck of a U.S. Capitol Police officer and threw the officer to the ground, according to the Justice Department. He then pushed or tackled 4 other officers. Clifford McCrell, meanwhile, assaulted multiple law enforcement officers, including by striking and pushing officers, violently pulling at an officer's gas mask. He grabbed at one officer's face and eyes, causing the officer to scream in agony. In separate sentencing hearings in March, both McCrells got 27 months in prison, followed by 12 months, Michael, and 36 months, Clifford, of supervised release. Each also owes $2,000 in restitution.
Okay, so you got this father and son team, right? So that day you couldn't do anything productive, you couldn't do anything meaningful. You had to go to the Capitol and participate in this nonsense, all because of a lie about the election being stolen. That's what we're doing here. And of course, assaulting multiple law enforcement officers, but these are the same people who said back to blue no matter what, right? Right. Now tell me, just like the first guy that we talked about, or that we heard about, if you will, do they deserve pardons? Do they deserve to be left back out on the street so they can do much worse? Do they? I don't think so. But let's carry on. Oh, look at this guy.
This father at Michael Joseph Foy, 32, of Wixom, Michigan. As he made his way into a Capitol tunnel with other mob rioters, Foy picked up a sharp metal pole and threw it over the head of rioters into the body of a police officer, then used the hockey stick that he was carrying to attack police.
Crazy.
He struck officers with the stick at least 11 times, swinging away at their faces, heads, and necks as if he were chopping wood with an axe. He then entered the Capitol through a shattered window, urging other rioters to do the same. Convicted of 2 felonies in a bench trial before U.S. District Judge Tanya S. Chutkan, sentenced last month, on February 28, to 40 months in prison and 24 months of supervised release.
And you see, that's what I'm talking about. So all these attacks on police officers, but then again, these are the same people who always said back to blue and swear that the police can do no wrong and all of that, but only when it serves them. But when it doesn't serve them, then they stoop to this. And again, tell me, does this person deserve a pardon? Does this person need to be, back in society with the rest of us? Do they? Whatever, man.
As he made his way in, Riley D. Casper outside the U.S. Capitol on January 6, 2021. Riley Casper, 25, of Pulaski, Wisconsin. After breaching the Capitol grounds, Casper sprayed bear spray at law enforcement officers and then boasted about it on social media, saying, "I pepper sprayed 3 cops so bad they got undressed and went home," adding, "We fucking took over Congress." He also wrote about wielding a baton while screaming in the face of a fallen officer, of whom he said, "I'm pretty sure dude thought he was gonna die that day, lol. In a conversation recorded in jail, Casper beamed that a photo of him wielding a can of bear spray against officers made him look like a fucking badass. He pleaded guilty and was sentenced last month, on February 26, to 37 months in prison and 24 months of supervised release, and to pay $2,000 in restitution.
Now, you won't be so much of a badass in prison, now would you? And again, I said this in one of my previous videos, but I'll say it again. Lord knows I'm not a fan of Alex Jones, mainly because of his conspiracy theory nonsense and how he treated, well, or should I say, how his words affected the families of Sandy Hook and how other people believed this nonsense. It came after those families. But if there's one thing that he said throughout his time on earth that I do agree with, sort of begrudgingly, is that criminals love to brag. That's probably the only time you'll ever see me agree with the likes of Alex Jones. But, that's what we're dealing with here. So let's continue on.
After breaching, Kenneth Bonowitz, 58, of Pompano Beach, Florida.
Look at this guy.
Carrying an 8-inch hunting knife in a sheath on his belt, Bonowitz mounted and then leapt off of the stage that had been built for Joe Biden's inauguration, tackling 2 Capitol Police officers. The officers managed to confiscate his knife, but Bonowitz got away. He proceeded to assault at least 4 more officers, putting one in a chokehold and lifting him off the ground. A member of the Proud Boys extremist group, Bonowitz left after being sprayed with a chemical agent. He then gave a media interview in which he complained about how rough the cops were with him, and another interview in which he identified himself by name and home state. Bonowitz was sentenced on January 17 to 60 months in prison and 36 months of supervised release.
Okay, the nerve of this guy to complain about how the cops were rough with him. I mean, dude, look at what you was doing. And then they probably weren't rough with his ass enough. You know, so you want to go there with all this aggression and you want to be, again, big, bad, bold, and aggressive and all that. But when the heat gets turned on you, then you want to complain about how rough somebody was with you. If you don't kick rocks with that nonsense, let's continue on to this next guy.
Carrying an William Crestman, 51, of Olathe, Kansas. Another Proud Boys member, Crestman came to the Capitol on January 6 equipped with a tactical vest, gas mask, and wooden axe handle. As the crowd breached a line of barriers on the Capitol grounds, he waved others forward while shouting, "Go! Go! Go!" At one point, he gestured toward officers, pointed to his axe handle, and threatened, "Hey, if you shoot, I'll fucking take your ass out." He entered the Capitol, where he used the handle to pry open a door. He later gloated that the cops were legitimately scared for their fucking lives. Crestman pleaded guilty to 2 felonies, including threatening a federal officer, sentenced on January 12 to 55 months in prison and 36 months of supervised release. He is a member of the J6 Prison Choir.
J6 Prison Choir. Give me a break. Okay, so again, criminals love to brag, don't they? They sure do. And again, what the hell? Okay. Why are you bringing a tactical vest, a gas mask, and a wooden axe handle to a damn protest? Why? You only looking to get violent. Otherwise, you wouldn't bring those things. I mean, come on now. Let's continue.
Jonathan G. Mellis, 35,
my
of
state.
Williamsburg, Virginia. This genius
Bless
posted
our
videos
hearts.
to Instagram of himself storming the Capitol and yelling, "We ain't fucking leaving." Mellis exhorted a fellow rioter, Justin Jersey, see below, to attack police and knock their masks off, prompting Jersey to charge the officers. Mellis then used the wooden stick Jersey had given him to stab at the faces and heads of officers at least 5 times, violently striking them. In a video afterward, he indignantly insisted it was Trumpers, not Antifa or Black Lives Matter, who deserved credit for the day's events. Mellis pleaded guilty to 1 felony count and was sentenced last December 20 to 51 months in prison and 36 months of supervised release. He was also ordered to pay $20,000 in fines. He is a member of the J6 Prison Choir.
And again, criminals love to brag. And then when you go put this mess on social media, what do you think is going to happen? You know, but you can't tell people nothing.
This genius post. Shane Jenkins, 45, of Houston, Texas. After using a tomahawk axe to smash a Capitol window, Jenkins cajoled his fellow rioters, "We're going in that fucking building one way or another." On entering, he and others armed disassembled some furniture they found and armed themselves with the pieces, which they later used to attack police. Jenkins shouted "push," as the mob surged forward. He secured a stolen riot shield and hurled 9 different objects at the officers, including a solid wooden desk drawer. He left after being repeatedly pepper sprayed. He then called the police trash in a post on social media and messaged a compatriot to say, "I have murder in my heart and head."
Crazy.
Found guilty by a jury of 7 felonies, including assaulting law enforcement with a deadly or dangerous weapon, Jenkins was sentenced last October to 84 months in prison and 36 months of supervised release and to pay $5,176 in restitution. He became a member of the J6 Prison Choir.
A tomahawk axe.
Shane Jason Woods,
Unbelievable.
45, of Auburn, Illinois. Woods did his part on January 6 by ramming his body into an officer who was chasing a rioter who had just sprayed him in the face with a chemical irritant. Later in the day, he gathered with other rioters just outside the media staging area, verbally harassing the reporters, camera operators, and technicians gathered there. Woods got a running start and charged into a camera operator, knocking the person to the ground. He pleaded guilty to 2 felonies and was sentenced last October to 54 months in prison and 36 months of supervised release.
And again, do any of these people need to be pardoned? Do any of these people need to be back out on the streets? Do any of these people need to be back in society with the rest of us? I think not. Let's carry
Woods
on.
did his part on January. Michael Stephen Perkins, 40, of Plant City, Florida.
The state of Florida,
And a
bless their
co-defendant
hearts.
tried to push their way through a police line on the Capitol grounds. When police arrived to come to the aid of another officer, Perkins picked up a flagpole and thrust it into the chest of an approaching officer, then swung the flagpole down, striking 2 officers in the back of their heads. He was convicted of 5 offenses, including assaulting a federal officer with a deadly or dangerous weapon, and sentenced last August to 48 months in prison and 36 months of supervised release. Audrey Ann Southard Rumsey, 54, of Spring Hill, Florida. Prior to heading to the Capitol, Southard Rumsey posted to social media such sentiments as "hang the traitors," and "go to their work and home, pull them out by their teeth and hang them for treason."
Crazy.
After entering the Capitol, she used a flagpole to push down a police sergeant, causing him to strike the back of his head on the base of a marble statue. She then stood at the door to the House chamber and yelled, "We're coming for you." She was found guilty of 7 felony charges, including 3 counts of assaulting officers, and sentenced last July to 72 months in prison and 36 months of supervision. She was also ordered to pay restitution of $2,000 to the architect of the Capitol.
And with this, we got the first woman on the list. And as you can see, she's just as violent as the men on the list, you know. But I digress. Let's carry on.
Prior to head, Kyle Fitzsimmons, 39, of Lebanon, Maine. After entering the Capitol grounds, Fitzsimmons hurled an unstrung bow like a spear at law enforcement officers, hitting one of them. He then made forcible contact with a police detective as another rioter sprayed a chemical agent into the detective's face, causing him to temporarily suffocate. He then attacked a police sergeant who came to another officer's aid, causing permanent injuries to the sergeant's shoulder that necessitated surgery and ultimately ended the sergeant's lengthy law enforcement career. He then charged at a group of officers, wildly swinging his fists, before exiting the grounds while exhorting others to get in there and fight. He was convicted of 7 felony charges and sentenced on last July to 87 months in prison, 36 months of supervised release, and $2,000 in restitution.
And you see, like I said, the violence continues. And what did they actually think that they were going to accomplish doing all this? I mean, really? Did they really think that they were going to permanently stop the count and somehow Trump was going to remain president? Crazy, man. Let's carry on.
Daniel Joseph DJ Rodriguez, 40, of Fontana, California. This member of Patriots 45 Mega Gang, a Telegram group that geared up for the Capitol attack by writing what the Justice Department said were hundreds of messages about war and revolution, about traitors and tyrants, discharged a fire extinguisher and shoved a long wooden pole at officers outside the Capitol. Seeing a fellow rioter dragging a DC police officer into the melee, Rodriguez approached and used an electroshock weapon to deliver jolts to the officer's neck. The officer's name is Michael Fanone, who later became a prominent advocate for officers brutalized in the attack. Rodriguez was sentenced on last June to 151 months in prison and 36 months of supervised release. He is also on the hook for $2,000 in restitution to the architect of the Capitol and almost $100,000 in further damages to the Metropolitan Police Department.
And he should pay every last cent of it, just like the other ones who owe money in restitution and damages.
Nicholas Brock Kopp, 22, of Covington, Kentucky. After throwing an object toward law enforcement on the Capitol grounds, Brock Kopp discharged the contents of fire extinguishers on multiple occasions. He somehow obtained a police officer's helmet, which he wore like a trophy throughout the day, including when he entered a Senate conference room through a broken window. He helped kick in a door leading into another conference room, where he tore open a box and went through papers in the office. He pleaded guilty to assaulting, resisting, or impeding officers with a dangerous weapon and sentenced on last May to 36 months in prison and 36 months supervised release and to pay $2,700 in restitution.
And you 22 years old, 22 years old, and you got this much hatred and violence in you to do something like this when you should be somewhere doing something else.
Donald Hazard, 44, of Hearst, Texas. Hazard came to the festivities in Washington, D.C., wearing protective gear and armed with knuckle gloves and pepper spray. While marching toward the Capitol, he told a newspaper photographer taking video, "Make sure you get my face and everything on your news channel. I want the enemy to know exactly who is coming after them." As he stormed up the steps to the building, he clashed with the Capitol police officer, who fell down the steps, hit his head, and was knocked unconscious.
Crazy.
After entering the Capitol, pepper spray in hand, Hazard posed for selfie videos in which he said, "We're taking the Capitol and this is America, baby." He pleaded guilty to assaulting an officer, and last May was sentenced to 57 months in prison and 36 months of supervised release, and to pay $2,000 in restitution.
And see again, criminals love to brag. Make sure you get my face and everything on your news channel. I want the enemy to know exactly who is coming after them. That's real smart, dude. But anyway.
Hazard came. Josiah Kenyon, 35, of Winnemucca, Nevada. Decked out in a Jack Skellington costume, based on a character from The Nightmare Before Christmas, Kenyon used a flagpole and closed fist to try, along with others, to shatter a Capitol window, causing more than $40,000 in damage. Kenyon later assaulted officers in the tunnel leading into the Capitol with objects including a table leg, hitting one officer in the leg, causing him to fall and hurt his ankle, and another in the head, with the table leg momentarily lodged between that officer's helmet and face shield. He pleaded guilty to 2 felonies and was sentenced on last April to 72 months in prison and 36 months of supervised release, and ordered to pay $43,315 in restitution.
Serves him right. And decked out in a Jack Skellington costume. Okay. You get no points for creativity. As a matter of fact, you get no points for none of this behavior. Nothing.
Decked out. Justin Jersey, 32, of Flint, Michigan. Part of a mob that confronted law enforcement officers in an archway leading into the Capitol, Jersey wielded a large, gnarled stick, which he handed to another rioter, Jonathan G. Mellis, see above, before springing at the officers at Mellis's urging. He knocked one officer to the ground and began kicking him, causing serious physical injuries, including a head laceration and body bruises and abrasions, before grabbing a baton that he used to strike other officers. Jersey reportedly kept trophies from his crimes, including a police badge and helmet. He pleaded guilty to assaulting an officer and inflicting bodily harm, and in February 2023 was sentenced to 51 months in prison and 36 months of supervised release and ordered to pay more than $32,000.
And again, as we continue on and head towards the end of this article again, do any of these people need to be pardoned? Do any of these people need to be back in society with the rest of us? Do any of these people need to be given a second chance? Do they? I don't think so.
Julian Ellie Cotter, 33, of Somerset, New Jersey, left. George Pierre Tanios, 41, of Morgantown, West Virginia. These 2 men, said to be longtime friends, traveled to Washington, D.C. with 2 canisters of bear spray and 2 canisters of pepper spray that Tanios had purchased for the occasion. As rioters attempted to pull away a bike rack barrier that separated them from police, Cotter sprayed 3 officers in the face with pepper spray, incapacitating them. One of these officers was Brian Signick, who died the next day. Cotter pleaded guilty to 2 felony counts and in January 2023 was sentenced to 80 months in prison, 36 months of supervised release. Tanios got off with time served. Both men were required to pay restitution and a fine. Neither was charged for Signick's death. Cotter became a member of the J6 prison choir.
And see, look, why are you bringing 2 canisters of bear spray and 2 canisters of pepper spray to quote unquote protest? You only bringing stuff like that if you're only looking to become violent. I mean, you didn't grab it by mistake. You didn't bring it because you wanted to have fun. Well, in this case, looking at um this behavior, they probably did think this mess was fun, but still, like you only bringing stuff like this if you're going to become violent. It's obvious. You ain't bringing it for protection. I guarantee you that.
These two men, Mark Andrew Mazza, 57, of Shelbyville, Indiana, left. Mazza came to the Capitol carrying 2 guns, a Taurus revolver full of shotgun shells and hollow point rounds and a .40 semi-automatic pistol that was also loaded. Sometime during the afternoon, he lost the revolver somewhere on the Capitol grounds. He held open doors to allow other rioters to attack officers with flagpoles, batons, sticks and stolen law enforcement shields, as they sought to force their way in. At one point, he grabbed a baton from an officer's hand and used it to strike at officers. He yelled, "This is our fucking house. We own this house." Mazza pleaded guilty to assaulting law enforcement officers with a dangerous weapon and in October 2022 was sentenced to 60 months in prison and 3 years of supervised release, and to pay more than $2,000 in restitution.
He came to the Capitol with 2 guns, a Taurus revolver full of shotgun shells and hollow point rounds, and a .40 semi-automatic pistol. What? I mean, this is crazy. And you're only bringing stuff like that with the intent of becoming violent.
Mazza. Thomas Webster, 54, of White Plains, New York. A retired New York Police Department officer, Webster illegally entered the Capitol grounds wearing a bulletproof vest and carrying a large metal flagpole bearing the U.S. Marine Corps flag. He accosted an officer behind the metal gates, saying "Take your shit off," an apparent invitation to fight, then aggressively shoved the metal gate into the officer's body while swinging the flagpole at him. When the officer pried the flagpole away, Webster broke through the barricade, tackled the officer, and tried to remove his helmet and gas mask, choking him and causing multiple injuries. Found guilty of assaulting a law enforcement officer with a deadly or dangerous weapon and other charges, he was sentenced in September 2022 to 10 years in prison, 3 years of supervised release, and to pay more than $2,000 in restitution. Note: the stated sentences for the above heroes and patriots, along with hundreds of others, are subject to change. They could all be coming home to communities across the country as soon as January 20th, 2025.
And that right there, that's where we end this article. And yes, they could all be coming home to communities across the country as soon as January 20th, 2025, if we somehow elect this clown known as Donald J. Trump. And that's where we end this article. Look, folks, after everything that you just heard, and I must ask again, do any of these people need to be pardoned? Do any of these people need to be back on the streets? Do any of these people need to be granted second chances at life? And my simple answer is no, none of them do. They should pay back every cent that they owe in terms of restitution. They should serve every bit of time that they've been given, plus more, I think. And a lesson should be learned here that these are the consequences when you stoop to this, when you stoop to levels like this. I mean, they came there with one purpose and one purpose only. And I think it had more to just become more, let me back up. The purpose was to become violent and make a statement. And I think that had more to do with this than anything other than, stopping the count and making sure Trump remained president, and now, like I said, yeah, now when I think about it, I think that was the point, to be violent and to make a political statement, a damn political statement. And this was hardly the way to go about it, but I digress, And then another thing that I want to say is that, it's crazy when you look back at it and when you see how, what the response was in terms of the security and the police. They were clearly outnumbered, but yet and still, when it came to the Black Lives Matters protests and anything else related, they were out there just waiting for something to pop off. But when it came to this, no, never mind the fact that this was expected, never mind the fact that people was talking about it online and on TV and on social media and all of that stuff. But apparently, that was overlooked. Oh, they wouldn't do such a thing. Oh, they wouldn't show up here. Oh, they just playing. They just letting off steam. Bullshit. No, no, no. But like we always said, had that been a group of us or a group of Muslims, we all know what the turnout would have been. We all know what would have happened. Things there would have been a lot worse than what they were. Let me tell you. But when you're a certain complexion, you get that protection, and you know what I'm talking about. That may ruffle feathers, but I'm going to speak truth to power here. It's still crazy. And I remember sitting at my desk at work, just looking at those events on my phone and just wondering how the hell was we letting this happen. But, one of them guys did said, this is America. And, that is the truth, unfortunately. So with all that being said, I want to end this on one more note. And this is to the Black conservatives. Okay. I'm talking to you, mostly the men, but I'm talking to you, y'all my brothers, and I love you. It was sad as I love you because y'all my brothers, okay? All right, I can say that. So, do you think any of them guys deserve to be pardoned? Do you think they deserve a second chance? Do you think they should be let out into society with the rest of us? Or that doesn't matter because it doesn't involve you, right? That doesn't matter because, we got the First Step Act, right? It doesn't matter as long as we stick it to the Democrats, right? It doesn't matter as long as I get some additional money in my pocket. Never mind the fact that the money that y'all probably thinking about and talking about is the money that came courtesy of the pandemic. And we all saw what Trump did when it came to the pandemic, right? You want more of that leadership, right? Anything to stick it to the Democrats, right? Anything to have more money in your pocket, right? The First Step Back, that was legend. That was some legendary piece of work, right? That's what we're talking about here. So again, look at all them people on that list. Tell me if you support all of them being pardoned. Or like I said, that doesn't matter, right? Exactly. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we've come to the end of the fourth part of the Trump effect. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you think about this video. And also, if you haven't done so, be sure to check out the first 3 parts as well. Again, let me know your thoughts on this. Do you think that they would charge well? Do you think that they would not charge enough? What do you think the Supreme Court is going to rule on this? Because I would assume that they're going to rule on this in June, which is basically a couple of months away. So with that being said, like I said, just let me know what you think. Hit this video up with a like, share the video with those that you know, make comments as necessary. If you want to become part of Team Discipline, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And also one more thing, the 5th part of the Trump effect. Now I'm going to save that as the election draws closer. That's going to be a big post of mine. I may spend between 30 minutes to an hour talking about, just giving my overall thoughts about, how Trump should not be granted another 4 years in office. So like I said, the 5th part, that's going to be later. And I'll say, if I had to put a month on it, probably in September or October, but we'll see about that. But like I said, part 5 coming soon. So with all that being said, ladies and gentlemen, take care. And until the next video, peace. And remember, the power of the mind is valuable.